Okay, so I'm gonna breathe. I um I'm new to my nerd thing. All right, I was a nerd in denial for a while, and it was one of those things that kind of came up and bit me on the arse before I realized exactly how far into this I really was and what potential I truly had. I didn't grow up with comic books. I did manage to get my hands on a D&D game, which was like one of the first things I bought for myself. I think I was 11, and I was like, oh, it was gold. Anyway, um, from there, when the Marvel comics started coming out with the movies, I was just all over them like paint on wet. It was just like, I was meant for these things. So I had a cat named Tribble when I was 18, and my husband asked me at the time period, he was just my best friend at the time, and he's like, you've never seen an episode of Star Trek? And I said, no, I have no idea where to begin. Well, fast forward 10, 12 years. He says, you still haven't seen Star Trek? I said, no, I still don't know where to begin. There's just so much of it. So he pointed me in the right direction, and the first thing I did was went out and bought the original series, Deep Space Nine and Generations. All of them. Okay, so I don't have Voyager yet, but I will. So I sat down and watched them, like back to back to back. The movies, all in chronological order in which the time that they were released. Well, sure enough, by the time I was done, I was a Trekkie. And I knew it wasn't going to stop there. So my brother starts getting into Doctor Who 1990 and 2005 and on, and tells me, you got to get into Doctor Who. And I'm like, what? I had no idea what it was. So here's where it comes to my story now that I've caught you up under 1 minute. So I get my hands on Doctor Who, and I've got all these people telling me you need to start with 2005. And I have other people telling me, just skip the original series, just go right into 2005. In the meantime, I have no idea what they're talking about. My brother had the TARDIS mixed in with the Van Gogh painting Starry Night, so I had kind of an idea. I had no idea. I had no idea. So there was one day we were over at my father's house, and he was watching Doctor Who, and it was the 11th Doctor. Yeah, he was just awesome. Smith was his last name. Well, I watched a whole whopping 2 minutes, and went, I love him. I have no idea who he is, but I love him. Right then, I knew I was going to be a Whovian. So on Pinterest, I started collecting Doctor Who pins, and I went crazy. I still hadn't watched any single episode, so I'm like passing myself also a Whovian and saying, I absolutely love the 11th Doctor. I know nothing about it, but I love it. So sure enough, I finally get around to figuring out which one, and this is really the reason why I postponed watching Doctor Who, is because I still wasn't certain if I was going to go all the way back to episode 1, or if I was going to actually sit down and start with 2005. And that's when I had an epiphany over Christmas vacation, and I said, wait a minute, I love Star Trek, and I gave the decency and the honor and respect to the original series. No one once ever said, hey, you know what, Kirk, he sucks. You should just start right off with Deep Space Nine. No one ever said that to me. I sat through some pretty crappy Pajama Men from Space episodes, but I endured it. For the love of Spock and McCoy and the originals, I sat through it. It was wonderful. Nothing beats the episode Spock's Brain. I mean, really. What would they want with Spock's brain, Captain? So anyway, I figured if I gave Star Trek the same respect, then I could at least pass on that same respect over to Doctor Who. So if it's official. A few days ago, I finally sat down and watched my first Doctor Who episode. Now, I'm a binge watcher. It's not like let's watch one episode here and there. I'm good. No. This consumes me. This is the person you are looking at who once watched all 600 episodes of One Piece in 3 months, back to back to back. I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I pushed play. I sat there and vegetated. And then at the end of the day, at 10 o'clock at night, I turned it off and went back to bed. And I sat right back up again the next day, rinsed and repeat. For 3 months, I did nothing else but watch One Piece. In 3 months, I got through the entire series and back up to track. It was wonderful. So I'm a huge binge watcher, which takes me back to Doctor Who. So I get my little thing. I know what I'm doing here. I've done this before. I know exactly how to, I know the system. So I pull up my Wikipedia website here. I got my Doctor Who list of episodes. I'm sitting here with my Doctor Who on one side, and I'm just sitting here on Hulu going, bring it to me. And I'm huge on going in chronological order because it's a story. You have to follow the order of the story. So I get through the story arc 1, story arc 2, story arc 3. In the meantime, there's this whole, how are they setting this up? Because British TV is set up a lot like Japanese television with anime. So fortunately, that wasn't something I was too unfamiliar with. For Americans who aren't familiar, we have season 1, episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then season 2, episode 1, 2, and it goes on. So when you start something, you have an idea that it goes season, but they don't do this in animation, in anime. In One Piece, for instance, they give you episode voyages. So there's season 1, and then there's the first voyage, and then within the first voyage there are episode numbers. Doctor Who works a lot like the same way if you're not familiar. It's there's the season, and then there's the story arc, which is story number 1 or story number 2. But within that first story, then you have episode numbers, and I think the first story has 8 episodes total. So there's 3 story arcs for the first season, I think. It was really complex. And then there's one Doctor spans 4 seasons, which covers about, and I'm guessing 30 story arcs. So once I figured out that system, I'm like, all right, I have an idea, I know where I'm going, so I'm just going. Get all the way through story arc 3, and I come to story arc 4, and Hulu just, I watched the episode, the end. It's when they're at roof of the top of the mountain, and they look down, and they're in the snows of the Himalayas, and there's this magnificent footprint, which never was explained at all in the story arc, by the way. I'm just pointing that out, but they find this massive footprint in Marco Polo. That's the story arc, Marco Polo. And it's the roof of the world is the first episode of that story arc. And then it jumps to episode 27 from 13. And I went, wait a minute. I went from episode what happened? So that launched me on this massive what happened to the missing episodes. And all Wikipedia tells you is the episodes are missing. That's not good enough for me. Now I gotta find out why they are missing. So I'm going to set all this Doctor Who stuff off to the side. I'm going to talk about another hobby that I have. So, I am a fan of classic television, not just a little bit. I love The Honeymooners. I absolutely adore Audrey Hepburn. She's one of my favorite actresses. My favorite actor is Charlton Heston. He is a god. Marlon Brando. Oh my god. So, I'm going to calm down now. I am huge on classic television. I know my way around this stuff. Widescreen all the way. I remember when theater edition, when the widescreen, and you had to choose, and a lot of people at that time didn't know the difference. So I watched, I can't remember, it's been 15 years since I watched television from actual TV and cable, so I can't remember. It was like A&E, something like that. It was classic MGM Studios. But they brought in, there was like a whole documentary on what happened to the old films. And this is where this is like candy to me. When we started making films back in the 1990s, we had no idea the chemistry that would take place with oxygen when it interacted with cells. That's the film itself. So their idea of storing these things, I kid you not, was to just dump them in a room and shut the door. And there they sat for decades. What we didn't know is back in the 60s, I believe it was, we started opening up these vaults. And we found that the air had interacted with the cells, with the film, and completely deteriorated it. We lost gold, precious films, precious things. My Fair Lady is one of my favorite movies, Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison. And there's this beautiful saying, Audrey Hepburn had to have had the most beautiful neck. Her neck is gorgeous. And there's this one thing, it's after the, after the ball, after the Queen's ball, and she's lying on the floor, crying, and the screenshot is of her side neck, and there's a hole right there in the middle of her neck. The film had eaten, or the oxygen had eaten a massive hole in the middle of her neck. One of the most beautiful scenes. And these treasures, there was a Mutiny on the Bounty, we almost lost. Gone with the Wind was in there, and we almost lost all these treasures. So there began a renewal program put on by the Warner Brothers, where they started collecting and cleaning up these vaults, and they started repairing the film and restoring them digitally and transferring them over to DVD. Now this is literally right when DVD started to take off. So you started to see all these massive releases of classic films coming. Ben-Hur was another fantastic one. There are many more that we've lost. So my first thought, bringing in Doctor Who, is that Doctor Who episodes were lost in this vault, and it was some that were destroyed. That's what I assumed, until I looked into the little link that the Wikipedia included. And they explained that there's something called wiping that used to take place back in the 60s. I have a lot of things to say about the 60s, I'm just saying. Back again to the 60s, where to save on money, they didn't realize that they were creating cultural artwork. So after a Doctor Who episode, they would delete it, wipe it clean, erase it, throw it away. And then they would reuse the film for something else, to save on money, to whatever. Over 90 episodes were lost in this process. of Doctor Who. I think 93, 95 episodes were completely deleted. Now, just the film, the audio was on a completely separate track and is still perfectly preserved. So, that brings me to the restoration and reconstructive videos that I've been watching. So I get to Marco Polo and I'm like, I can't have this. I have to watch it all chronologically. Whew, so I found it. A reconstruct on YouTube of the Doctor Who episodes that have been deleted. I watched the Marco Polo story arc all through CGI. Now the CGI, first of all, I just want to say the people who are doing this are hobbyists. Hobbyists. These are people who have a life. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But they're just passionate about it and they have a skill. Now honestly, if I had the skill, I'd be right there with them rebuilding these things. So they basically made little CGI animations. So you have an visual now to plug in with the audio. So I actually sat through a rough CGI of Marco Polo story arc number 4. I'm actually working my way through story 5 at the time. Yeah, I'm working my way through story 5. I got done with the keys of I can't remember, the keys of something. Marinus. The keys of Marinus. I just got done with that one. So I'm starting story arc 6 here soon. But my concern is when we get to the second Doctor, all of season 3, and I do mean like all but 1 or 2 episodes, is gone. So I'm debating on whether or not I'm actually going to sit down and go through all this. But at the end of the day, I am only at story arc 4, episode 20, I think 30 something when I last left off. I have a long way to go, 40 years almost, before I get to 2005. Which brings me to why I'm recording this video at 8 o'clock at night. So, I'm also a huge anime fan, as you well know me. So, and aside from One Piece, and there's like this massive which of the animes is better. There's like 3 giants in anime, and that's Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. Bleach is over. Naruto just ended. Now, for those of you who don't watch anime, I'll summarize. An average anime runs 20 episodes, maybe 12. 24, usually 12 to 24 episodes long. Like Death Note's 24 episodes long. I guess I've been told that that's normal. My first anime was One Piece, so I really wouldn't know. My second anime that I got into was Dragon Ball. All of them. The next one was Naruto. So I don't know what it means when I hear 12 and 24 episodes. I'm like, what do you mean? Where's the rest of it? One Piece runs, I think it's currently at 750 episodes and counting, and it's nowhere near done. I think we're half over now. I project Luffy to be done, One Piece to be done at 1,500 episodes. It's been running for more than 18 years now. One Piece is huge. It's like the Doctor Who in Japan. It's amazing for a reason. Anyway, don't get me on One Piece. I'll never shut up. So Naruto, I think, finished up at 600 episodes. And Bleach, I think, fell short of just 600. So these are huge investments. Naruto was broken up, like Doctor Who, in 2 parts. There's Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Which Shippuden just means sequel in Japanese, something like that. So anyway, the first time I saw Naruto, it was much later in Shippuden, and the animation was gorgeous. And I just did what is this? And my husband's like, well, it's Naruto Shippuden. Okay, we're watching this. He goes, well, no, you don't start with Shippuden. You start with Naruto. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. So I sat down. Shippuden, I think, came out in the 90s, like late 90s. So, and they had the budget. They were renowned by then. So the animation was crystal. It was gorgeous. The music was stunning. And really, if you love story, get into anime, because they put as much into their animation as we put into the Star Wars series. I mean, it's a big deal over there. So we're not talking cartoons, guys. We are talking like this gorgeous, breathtaking artwork. So I'm sitting down there, I'm getting ready to watch Naruto, and I'm thinking Shippuden. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. No. Instead, it came out with no budget, because, it wasn't renowned yet. It had no popularity. It was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, like 91, 90. Yeah, no, wait, hold on. Let me do some math here. It came out after Luffy. Luffy was 98. Okay, so it was late 90s, and Shippuden came out much later, like 2010, I think, somewhere in there. But anyway, so I'm watching this. I'm expecting this gorgeous, high quality animation. Here, this will put it on American terms for you. to watch Death Note, which is one of the largest, or one of the most beautiful, amazing animes in the world. It's gorgeous. Watch Death Note. If you were to sit down and watch Death Note, it is on par with the Halo games, Skyrim, and World of Warcraft. The animation is on par with Final Fantasy. If you know the gaming's Final Fantasy, the animation is gorgeous. Shippuden in places, some of the animation is on par with that. It's absolutely stunning. So we're not talking like Cartoon Network. We're talking some stunning animation. So I'm all prepped for this gorgeous, PS3 quality stuff, and what I get is Bugs Bunny animation, and I'm just like, what is this garbage? And Isaac's like, no, just, you gotta sit through it. Well, to be blunt, the story was so phenomenal that it didn't take too long for me to just get right into Naruto and tolerate it. And sure enough, by like the 3rd season of Naruto, the animation did clean up. They got the budget in, they got the support, so you definitely saw the animation clean up, which was wonderful when that happened. So I sat through 400 plus episodes of Naruto, all because I wanted to get to Shippuden. It was awesome. Seriously, watch it. But there was an excitement that overcame me when I finally got to Shippuden. It was like, oh, finally. It was like that moment that I got when Luffy finally went up Reverse Mountain in like episode 100. I was just like, let's do this! We're going to the other side. It was great. So there was like this massive just excitement. I was just, whoa, I've been waiting so long for this. I just watched a little synopsis of all the Doctor Who jokes on YouTube, like a 5-minute little thing. And I got that same feeling. This is why I've been talking to you for the last 15 minutes, is because I wanted to tell you, I just got that feeling. I'm sitting here and I'm like, ooh, that's the 11th. Oh my god, that's it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. So I'm like all revved up now, and I'm on the first Doctor. And I'm just like, so I'm pumped now, and I want to do nothing right now except just watch Doctor Who until I get to the 11th Doctor and get caught up, so I can just be like, like, oh yeah, excited, so excited. All right, so that's my, yeah, I wasn't gonna type all this out. I was debating on it, and I had like this whole thing planned and this article, but my website's down, and I'm like, ooh. Okay, I can just keep it together. When my website comes back up, I'll do a Doctor Who article. Screw that! So, this is my Doctor Who article where I'm just going, oh my god, have you seen this crap? It's great! So, I am, and I'm only like I said, I'm only at like 4 or 5 story arcs. So, yeah, I'm gonna have a good like binge watching. So, okay, I'm done now.